Welcome to Pontification Nation. I'm your host, Ricky Skittle, coming to you live, as always, from my mother's basement. And boy, we have a great show lined up today. We're going to talk, if you couldn't tell, about AOC a little bit, because you know what? AOC wants us to talk about her. And we're going to continue talking about her until she goes away, which hopefully would be November 2020, but we'll see about that. There's still a lot of people who are brainwashed out there who think that she actually is a good person, but she's not. She's a bad person. So we will move on from there. I found some old information. We were talking the other day about the Mueller grand jury subpoena, and that led me down that crazy rabbit hole. And so I want to discuss that in relation to some information that is not new, it's old. But as we know, as we're trying to put together this huge puzzle, sometimes we have to go back and look at older things to really understand the new information that we have. So there is some information out there that I think might be relevant to that, but it would also potentially be devastating to my theory about Bob Mueller and how he is by design only supposed to impugn Trump. There are redacted pieces of the sentencing memo. I know when I did the Muellergate, I talked about the Michael Flynn sentencing memo and all of those redactions and the cooperation that he is still doing, not only with the special counsel, but with other areas of the DOJ. So in relation to that, there could be stuff that is like, I would call it maybe a pro-Trump indictment that comes out, but we don't know. But I do want you to have all of the information available so that you can make your own decision about what you think about Mueller, because we'll probably find out a lot over the coming weeks and months, as I've been saying. And then finally, we are going to talk about Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti, because they're in the news and they're fun to talk about. And we're going to just have some fun today. So let's get started. So sometime in the past day or two, maybe three, there was a hearing in the House Financial Services Committee run by Chairwoman Maxine Waters, which basically means this is a clown committee and it's a clown car designed to just destroy capitalism and the companies of America. Regardless of what you feel about the company we're going to talk about, I understand there's a lot of bad news out there about them. But at the end of the day, that's not really what's the matter. What's the matter is people like AOC being on these committees, because it's just not serious, because she's not a serious, real person. So the other day I was talking about AOC, and in passing and as a matter of fact kind of way, I said that, you know, when she gets away from her handlers and gets off script, you know, it's beautiful because she stammers. You really get to see, like, you know, that there aren't any brains in between her ears. And I kind of stated as a matter of fact. And one of my loyal listeners, yes, I have loyal listeners. I know what you're thinking. One of my loyal listeners sent me a video of a guy who really broke down the whole thing about how she is being handled, and none of what you see is reality. And he posited that, maybe he pontificated, if you will, that she's potentially just an actress and that she gets told everything by SACAT, which I believe is most likely the case. And you know, I had kind of said it as a matter of fact. I wasn't trying to prove it, because I think that it's relatively easy to see if you open your eyes and pay attention. But in any case, I don't have the video. Maybe my loyal listener who sent it to me can post it in the comments, or maybe I'll post it in the comments later when I find it. But in any case, kind of talking, that's kind of like leading to this discussion today. So here, this is from the Conservative Treehouse again. This is one of the reasons why I love these guys. Jumpin' Juju Bones. I've seen people say that Ms. AOC is a hired actor without any cognitive intellect and needs a script to avoid embarrassing herself. I thought those claims were overstated until now. So here he goes on to talk about what we're about to watch. So let's watch a little bit of this video. Oh, just for color, she is discussing with him right now they have lent money to people who operate private prisons. And two of those operators happen to operate private prisons for ICE, which are ICE detention facilities. So this is the context of this question.
Why was the bank involved in the caging of children and financing the caging of children to begin with?
I don't know how to answer that question because we weren't.
So in finance, you were financing and involved in debt financing of CoreCivic and Geo Group, correct?
For a period of time, we were involved in financing one of the firms. We're not anymore, and the other. I'm not familiar with the specific assertion that you're making, but we weren't directly involved in that.
Okay, so these companies run private detention facilities run by ICE, which is involved in caging children. But I'll move on.
So you see, she's like stammering because she's reading from her script that the people who produce for her give to her. And when she starts trying to ask actual questions off script, she gets really confused. And let me just explain to you a couple of things. First of all, financing is debt. Investment is capital and risk. So in a debt structure, your risk is that the people who you lend money to may not pay you back, or they may file bankruptcy. And for that risk, you get paid interest on a certain amount of time. And at the end of that time, you get your principal back. If you don't get your principal back, then that person is in default. And you have legal authority to confiscate assets to make yourself whole. An investment is capital invested. And if you make an investment and the company that you invest in does not do well or goes out of business, you lose all your money and you have no right to, well, you have a little bit of right, but you're last in line and the debt holders get all the assets because they lent the money with the expectation of being repaid. You invested the money with the expectation that you could lose all of your money. I understand this is really rudimentary and most people understand this, but clearly she doesn't because she keeps on using things like debt financing and words like that to make it sound like she's smarter than she is, but in reality, it makes her sound dumber. But in any case, it doesn't matter to the bank necessarily. It does in some ways. I mean, I've worked in these places. So but when they examine like a commercial lending application, yeah, they're going to look at what you do. But most of what they look at is, are you able to pay back the funds that you borrow on a timely basis? And what is your business model? And how do you generate revenue? And what are your revenue streams like? And are you over leveraged? And what assets do they have to fall back on in case you can't? Those are the types of things that go into underwriting decisions. Obviously, they stay away from payday lenders. They stay away from check cashing places. There's a heavily high regulations on stuff like that, because of money laundering, all the other things that could go along with that, but to simply say, I'm not going to, as a business decision, I'm not going to lend money to somebody because I don't like what they do. You can do that. And I think Wells Fargo actually has done that now because they're bowing to the mob because they're headquartered in San Francisco. But in any case, it really shouldn't be a deciding factor on whether you lend to them, whether you agree with what they do as a business. It should be mostly, will they pay me back and am I willing to accept the risk? And some of that risk may be reputational risk. If people find out we're financing prisons, what's that going to look like for us? And that's part of the risk that is looked at when they do these deals, which she clearly doesn't understand. Now, this next part, it's a couple minutes, so bear with me. But you really have to watch her to fully grasp, you have to watch this interaction. I can't color it any better than the way that it actually happens. So let's watch her line of questioning and line of thought.
Mr. Sloan,
I want you to pay close attention to her eyes. She is reading off of a script.
Wells Fargo was also an investor, a major investor in the Dakota Access Pipeline and the Keystone XL pipelines. They were prime investors and lenders to companies building these pipelines in defiance of Standing Rock Sioux's treaty rights to protect its water and sacred lands. They warned early on, the Lakota Sioux warned early on that the pipeline was unstable and bound to leak. Despite that, it was built anyway, and it has leaked at least 5 times. And the Keystone XL in particular had one leak that leaked 210,000 gallons across South Dakota. Since Wells Fargo financed the building of this pipeline in an environmentally unstable way, why shouldn't the bank be held responsible for financing the cleanup of the disasters from these projects?
Which pipeline are you referring to?
Either, you know.
So we were not involved in the financing of the XL pipeline. We were one of the 17 or 19 banks that was involved in the financing of the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Okay, so here she's basically using information that is factually incorrect to question him about things that happened. So basically she's saying, oh, you know, you did the Keystone. And he's like, we didn't do the Keystone XL. I don't know what you're talking about. We did the Dakota Access. And if you recall from 2 seconds ago, she said, the Keystone XL spilled 210,000 gallons. And then she said that the Dakota Access Pipeline leaked 5 times, but no gallon amount in that. So what happened? Did a couple of drops of oil leak out of a seam onto the ground? I mean, what was the leak there? Clearly, whoever is handling her didn't put that information in there because it probably wasn't beneficial to them. So now she starts to reorganize and think, which is, you know, the most dangerous thing that she could do for herself.
Okay, so Wells Fargo hasn't financed any company associated with the Keystone XL pipeline?
No, I didn't say that. I said we're not involved in financing that pipeline specifically.
Okay, so let's focus on the Dakota Access Pipeline. Should Wells Fargo be held responsible for the damages incurred by climate change due to the financing of fossil fuels and these projects?
I don't know how you'd calculate that, Congresswoman.
Say from spills, or when we have to reinvest in infrastructure, building seawalls from the erosion of infrastructure, or cleanups, wildfires, etc.
Okay, so let me ask you something. When's the last time you heard that they had to build a seawall for the erosion of infrastructure, or that the Dakota Access Pipeline caused wildfires? I mean, seriously. And she's off script. You could hear it. She actually even said for financing fossil fuel, like her voice cracked a little bit like when she was talking about the fossil fuels. Clearly evident that she's uncomfortable in this conversation because she fully doesn't understand what she's talking about, and her questions don't make any sense.
Related to that pipeline, I'm not aware that there's been any of what you described that's occurred related
How
to
about
that
the cleanups from the leaks of the Dakota Access Pipeline?
I'm not aware of the leaks associated with the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Oh, maybe they didn't talk about how much leaked from the Dakota Access Pipeline because there weren't any leaks and she got bad information from her handlers. I don't know, but certainly it wouldn't be the CEO of Wells Fargo's responsibility to know about the leaks at Dakota Access.
That you're describing.
So hypothetically, if there was a leak from the Dakota Access Pipeline, why shouldn't Wells Fargo pay for the cleanup of it since it paid for the construction of the pipeline itself?
Because we don't operate the pipeline. We provide financing to the company that's operating the pipeline. Our responsibility is to ensure that at the time that we make that loan, that customer, and we have a group of people in Wells Fargo, including an environmental oversight group headed by one of my colleagues who used to be at the EPA.
So one question, why did Wells Fargo finance this pipeline when it was widely seen to be environmentally unstable?
Again, the reason that we were one of the 17 or 19 banks that financed that is because our team reviewed the environmental impact, and we concluded that it was a risk that we were willing to take.
Thank you.
Imagine that a business is allowed to conclude that it's a risk they're willing to take. I wonder why that would be able. And then also, I'd like you to take a look at the people in this room watching this. Some of these people are plants. These people are not, this guy is not interested in going to the House Finance Committee with his yellow shirt on. You know, these people are put here, they're paid to be put there. And I think it's just comical in general. So that's AOC. So here's the conservative treehouse response. Should the bank who holds your mortgage be responsible for cleaning your kitchen after a grease fire? Should the lender of your auto loan be responsible for rotating your car tires? If an elephant walks through your front yard, how many pancakes does it take to fill a canoe? Because that's seriously how that ended up. It went from, you know, talking about these things that factually happened that weren't factually correct that he called her on, to if an elephant walks through your front yard, how many pancakes does it take to fill a canoe? You know, that's where she went to. So let's just all remember that this person is not a good person, and she is not smart. And hopefully, the more she talks, the more the people in her district will realize that. Now, this is from the Daily Caller News Foundation in late August of 2018. China hacked Hillary Clinton's private email server. Now, we're all familiar with this. I mean, it's just very, very inconceivable that all of her emails aren't everywhere, including in the NSA database, which is why it's insane that anyone thinks that the people who are investigating this matter don't have all of the emails. They have them all. There's just no possible way that emails are sent and received without them being logged by the NSA. That's what the NSA does. It's just a fact. That's what it does. Now, the curious thing about all of this is here. A Chinese-owned company operating in Washington, D.C. area hacked Hillary Clinton's private server throughout her term as Secretary of State and obtained nearly all of her emails, two sources briefed on the matter told the DCNF. The Chinese firm obtained Clinton's emails in real time as she sent and received communications and documents through her personal server, according to the sources who said the hacking was conducted as part of an intelligence operation. Now, let's break this down for just a minute. Knowing who Hillary Clinton is, do we think that she is going to pass up on an opportunity to generate money? She's not. I would pontificate my very strong opinion, and I don't have facts to back this up, but it is very strong opinion based on just the whole history and litany of information and data that we have about these people. I would posit to you that A, it's not only China, and that B, there was some form of payment, because CrowdStrike, her security firm, certainly would have recognized that in real time, as she was sending and receiving emails, they were going off to a third party that was a hostile foreign government. It is just not fathomable that someone who is responsible for security of the Secretary of State's email server wouldn't have identified this stuff as happening and put a stop to it. My pontification on this is that she accepted money. CrowdStrike lifted the firewall. The Chinese embedded the code, and then they started getting her emails in real time. And guess what? They blew past us in military advancement technology. They destroyed special access programs, and they're continuing to hack into our planes and military equipment and make things happen like helicopters fall out of the sky while they're on training missions for no reason whatsoever. Boats running into each other in the ocean. I mean, seriously, how do you think that happens? It never used to happen. I mean, maybe every once in a while, but not like 6, 7 times a year. Hillary Clinton, CrowdStrike was not a security firm, it was an access firm. And if you paid the troll toll to CrowdStrike, they lifted the firewall so that you had access to Hillary Clinton. Because what do the Clintons do? They sell access. That's what they've always done, and that's what they're continuing to attempt to do. But it'll all be over soon. Well, I'm going to put this in the notes. It's actually a really good article, and there's an interview at the bottom. It's about 10 minutes with the guy who wrote the article, which is also a really good interview. So I'll put this in the notes for you guys to look at for yourself. But it is damning information. And if you read it from the perspective of Hillary Clinton allowed this all to happen by design, because that's why she set up the server, so that she could sell access to the server, it gives you a whole different perspective. And finally, last but not least, our two favorite idiots have divorced. And of course the divorce is hilarious because she says she fires him, and then he says that he fired her, and it's all great. So what happened and why did it happen? So I kind of looked at the dates. I mean, Avenatti said it was February that he notified her. She's saying she just did this. So there's a couple things, like if back in December she started making statements. So here's her statement. I haven't decided yet what to do about legal representation moving forward. Michael has been a great advocate in many ways. I'm tremendously grateful to him for aggressively representing me in my fight to regain my voice. But in other ways, Michael has not treated me with the respect and deference an attorney should show to a client. He has spoken on my behalf without my approval. He filed a defamation suit against Donald Trump against my wishes. He repeatedly refused to tell me how my legal defense fund was being spent. Now, he has launched a new crowdfunding campaign using my face and name without my permission and attributing words to me that I never wrote or said. I am deeply grateful to my supporters, and they deserve to know their money is being spent responsibly. I don't want to hurt Michael, but it's time to set the record straight. The truth has always been my greatest ally. Now, that's all well and good, but I'm telling you right now, that's not Stormy Daniels. Someone wrote that statement for her. I don't know if it was a PR person or an attorney. So this was in November, because they were talking about, how she was having issues. So this started back then. And, so he came out and made a statement saying that she knows everything and that the legal defense fund was always supposed to be his and not hers, and she wasn't getting any money from it. And Michael Avenatti is a shady guy, and he's got lots of people who are suing him. He's got a case right now from his former partner, and he's hiding millions of dollars in a bankruptcy case. He also has a former client who is accusing him of operating his law firm like a Ponzi scheme. Basically, this guy says that they got a settlement, that Avenatti got a settlement for him, and then Avenatti never paid him his portion. Normally, the way these things work are if you don't pay an attorney, they'll take on your case and they'll say, all right, I want anywhere from 30 to 40% of whatever the settlement funds are that we get, and then you don't have to pay me, and I'll do all the work. And that's normally how these types of things go. So that's why they have something called an IOLTA. It's an interest on a lawyer's trust account. So an IOLTA is where settlement funds go. And then the lawyer writes a check to himself and writes a check to the client, or writes a check to the firm and the client out of the IOLTA, because that money can't be used in any other way than to disperse funds to client and the firm. And then once it gets into the firm, it can be done whatever. So this guy is accusing Avenatti of using his IOLTA account like a regular bank account. And there are attorneys out there who do that, and I know that for a fact, and, none of them are usually stand-up guys. So in any case, that's kind of like the idea here, but I think really this lines up mostly with the February 14th dissolving of his law firm. So on February 14th, he changed from Avenatti and Egan to Avenatti and Associates. He went from a limited liability partnership to a professional corporation. A PC is typically used when you're using your own name, to register the attorney. So like Avenatti and Associates, that would be like more of a PC. So like individual attorneys usually just have a PC. CPAs have a PC. And then when you have a bunch of partners, you have the LLP or an LP. And so, depending on how big it is, the big firms have LPs and the smaller firms are LLPs. So the way that he had that set up, he went from an LLP to a PC. So he is the lead attorney, but I guess maybe there are some other shareholders involved because clearly Michael Avenatti has money coming from somewhere that none of us know about. And it's probably George Soros or George Soros linked. So, just as an aside, it's great to watch this because these people are both so hungry for attention. We're probably going to see more about this in the news, but I think this is related to the change in structure of his law firm and basically whoever his new handlers are saying, we don't want the Stormy thing because you're going to end up having to pay all that money to Trump because she doesn't have any of the money and you already spent all the money out of her defense fund. So my opinion is they're probably looking at this in that kind of way. And maybe he said maybe he fired her at that point. Maybe he didn't. It looks like she had already decided to fire him in November. And she was probably not telling him that because she wanted to get more information and her lawyer was telling her not to tell him that. So I would believe that she's already had other representation for, more time than just a few days. And I also believe that if there was a letter that was sent, they would have to do with the fact that he got reorganized as a company and probably has new handlers and they didn't want the liability of Stormy. Now, the thing that I think is great, in a terse statement, Avenatti said that he informed Daniels on February 19th that he and his firm were terminating their representation of her for various reasons that we cannot disclose publicly due to the attorney-client privilege. Now, let me ask you something. Since when did Michael Avenatti give an F about ethics or the attorney-client privilege or any of that? Or following NDAs? It's absolutely ridiculous for him to say something like that. And, both of these people are just proven liars. So who knows what's going to happen and who you can believe. But Avenatti already has his new teat in the R. Kelly case that he is going to be siphoning off money and buying Ferraris with that he can't afford. And, he'll probably hit another woman again. And so this will not be the last we see of them. So in summary, we have AOC is not smart. We have possibly that this Chinese company is the company that Mueller, I kind of forgot to talk about this. So this is why I wanted to talk about it. I got all off into a tangent on Hillary Clinton selling access. I think it's possible that this company is the company that Mueller subpoenaed. We will know in the future, but it's possible. And if that's possible, why would he be subpoenaing this company for Hillary Clinton stuff? Unless he's trying to just close it all down and shut it all down and tie up all the loose ends and make people think that he is trying to do things. He wants to maybe silence this company so they can't come out and say that Hillary paid us to go, or we paid Hillary to get access to the server. This was a business arrangement. It wasn't us hacking into it. Because, if I were this Chinese company and that were the case and they were taking me to court, what I would be saying. I would be telling the truth. Listen, you can't fault me for doing my business. Hillary Clinton accepted our money, gave us access to the server. Here are the people at CrowdStrike that we talked to. Here's the deal we arranged. This is now officially your problem, not mine. So that was kind of my thought process and why I think it might relate. The timing is very, very similar. This is coming out in late August. This subpoena battle started in late August, early September. So it's going to be interesting. Buckle up, buttercups, because it's going to be a great couple of weeks. If you like justice and a non-two-tier justice system. If you're watching Hannity, he's been firing away all week. Justice is coming, justice is coming, justice is coming. It is coming, my friends and family. It is coming. Justice will be served. And I would not be surprised if the indictments on this student scandal were the beginning of the unsealing. Because I think that everybody in the country is on board with how despicable and disgusting that was. And I haven't looked at all of the political affiliations of the people yet. I'm going to do a video on that. But I'm willing to bet that most of these people who did this were affiliated with one party and not the other. And, you know, maybe not all, but I think more than half and possibly most would be affiliated with one over the other. And so maybe this is the beginning to try to, you know, bring the country together around something that we can all agree on, that it's terrible for rich people to bribe colleges to get their stupid kids into the schools. Because I think that's something that everyone in this country agrees on. And it also might be a play to try to eliminate this affirmative action stuff that prevents people from getting into schools that they would otherwise get into. It's racist against Asians. Asians can't get into elite schools anymore because there's too many of them. So they're letting other people in so that they don't have too much of one color of people. Really, college should just be merit-based. If you can't get into a school, you can't get into a school. You know, you go find another school. Lord knows there's plenty of them. And frankly, at this point, in this day and age, with the internet and everything that we have, do we really actually need it? I mean, unless you're going to study some like advanced mathematics or some kind of science and stuff like that, most of everything that we do in life is taught at the corporate level anyway. You know, when you get your job, your first job out of college, you don't know how to do it. College doesn't teach you how to do your job. You have to go in through their training program, learn their systems, all that stuff. I mean, by the time we're 18, I think all of us have learned how to learn. So I don't think we need to go to college so that we can binge drink and unlearn how to learn. Because that's really what's going on in colleges. We're unlearning how to learn. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. We'll see how it looks when baby Skittle goes to college. But I was fascinated to find that there are people out there who pay consultants to help them get into schools. I mean, not even a bribing, like just a regular business arrangement. We had guidance counselors when I was going to college, and they helped us like with our applications. But I don't ever remember there being consultants. And I went to a competitive high school, and you know, there was a lot of smart kids in my class who went to a lot of good schools, and I don't ever remember anyone using a consultant. But I digress, and maybe I'm just getting old. Thank you so much for listening, subscribing, sharing, liking. The more we like the videos, the more they get recommended to other people who may watch this type of stuff. So I appreciate it all. Thank you very much. And for Pontification Nation, this is Ricky Skittle, and I am out.